Hello again. I've been quiet for a couple of days, and that's the topic of this video too. How at least I cope with things when things go badly and when things go wrong, at least mentally for me, and how it's quite valuable to notice about yourself how you deal with stress. Because some people will go and they will overeat, they will overspend, and for me, I just completely ghost everything and everyone. I just, I don't want to say I run away. It's more like I put my head down into the sand and I just bury myself. And I try to hide in the quiet. Yeah, that sounds like a good description. Um, So yeah, that's why I stopped responding to people. And it has its upsides and its downsides because on one hand, if I'm noticing about myself how I'm getting angry or I'm having a short fuse or I'm feeling stressed, then I don't lash out at the people around me very often. I often bury that or I do lash out and then I'm like, wait, how did that happen? Why did I do that? And usually I'll just shut down completely then. I'll stop talking to everybody I know in real life, which is not many people at this point because this pattern of coping has continued forever, basically since my childhood. But it also affects everybody I'm friends with online, essentially, because I'll just not come online. I just not talk to people. I'll just go and do something else, or really just not be online. And that's how I deal with things. Because here's where the part where the source of this comes in. For me, it was when I was young. My dad came home from work and he was always in a terrible mood because he was a truck driver. And boy, let me tell you, you don't want to be a truck driver in Germany. There's so many, what's even the point? Traffic jams. There's so many traffic jams. And he had a real asshole of a boss, and I got to hear all about that every day for 20 plus years. So he would come home, he would start yelling just to let out his emotions, which, now that I'm older, I really get that. And he could have been way worse, let me put it that way. He was just angry a lot and often, and that wasn't fun, but it was mostly just scary to me. And the way I dealt with that eventually was I just hid away in my room. Then I got earphones because then I could not just disappear from sight, let's say, by hiding in my room or just by being somewhere else. But I could also put the headphones on and just mentally be somewhere else. And then I started closing the door on him, and then that was almost fine. The more distance I could build between myself and whatever got to me, the better it was in terms of effectively giving me time to reconsider and deal with my emotional issues. Because usually with this time, I'll just read. I'll read a book. It used to be anime or gaming. I would run away and escape from reality that way. This is how I made some time for myself, how I made space, how I made a safe space for myself, for my mind, and to give the bad emotions an outlet. And it worked. Now, now I'm almost 30. I don't really need to be scared of my dad anymore, but I can still definitely feel the fear that used to be there when I was a child. That's still there. Not as much, not as strongly, but it's still there, and I don't think it's going away because the behavioral pattern is still there too. You know, what did I do in the last 2 weeks when I got stressed and I was like, okay, any day now, I'll finally have some days off. And what do? I shut down. I don't talk to anybody. I kind of hide away in the quiet, put my head down and read. It's worked for me. I don't lash out at people, which makes me feel a bit good about myself, but it also means I don't set clear enough boundaries a lot of the time, which is not good. That that causes stress again down the line. But at the very least, this behavioral pattern has been very constant throughout 20 plus years. So I'm aware of it. I don't know how to deal with it in a way that lets me, let's say, overcome it. Ov- Having peace and quiet has just been very effective. And I've gone from just straight up escaping into, let's say, pleasure from gaming, from being rewarded from that, to reading stories, to reading self help stuff. I'll run away and bury my head into that, or just music. Which, I think a lot of people can complain about video games, but not that many people complain about music because most people realize that music is quite nice. It's a good thing to retreat into if you're going to retreat into something. So, yeah, that's why I'm quiet. And here's the question for you. Do you notice a pattern that happens? Like, do you lash out at people? I know my dad has to not lash out at people necessarily, but he has to vent. And his solution to his venting was starting to take pills so he doesn't get that angry anymore and his nerves aren't that frayed. I don't know if that's really a better option than retreating every once in a while or having some lonely time. I prefer my option. But on the other hand, I know that my option doesn't work for my dad. Um, he will he will do that too. He will just lay down, drink beer, and do nothing on the weekends a lot of the time. And he doesn't really feel that much better from that. He doesn't get motivated off that. He just wants to rest. And to some point, I really understand that, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, I don't know if either one of those is a good solution. And my mom, I don't know how she copes. That's another thing that's interesting about this. Even though I've lived so close to someone, I still don't understand how she copes with stress. Oh, actually, I think she just overconsumes on food and drink. Yeah, that sounds like the most accurate thing. I think out of all those options that are right there in my direct family, I like retreating and not lashing out at people the most. Maybe that's why I had those two things when I grew up and I chose something else because it seemed like the better thing. In that way, you know how children want to always overcome their parents or learn something from their parents' experience. And I guess that's the lesson I took from my parents. Don't overeat and overdrink, and don't lash out at other people. So I don't do either one of those. I tend to overconsume media and still overly escape, but I don't lash out at other people by doing that. So, what about you? How do you deal when you're with the situation if you're stressed or someone makes you angry or you're feeling burned out? How do you deal with that? Do you lash out at other people? Do you lash out at yourself? I had a period of that too. And I'm not a big fan of lashing at anything. Lashing out at the world also never worked for me. So yeah, this was the topic today. Lashing out, dealing with trouble, dealing with stress. A bit of a heart palpitating talk, actually. And here's me again. Thanks for watching. I hope to record for you soon again. Bye bye.